When Diane and I sued for marriage equality, every establishment LGBT organization was against us. They were angry at us. They said, how dare you sue without asking us? And I'm talking about all the legal organizations. I have been an activist for 35 years. I'm 67 years old. I called for the first march on Washington. I produced the stages for the first, second, and third march on Washington. I called for the fourth march on Washington, and I turned around to the establishment organizations, and I said, who the hell are you telling me what to do? And we sued. And we won. And then yes, they started their bullshit. And they changed the terms and they made it about their children. If there's any cameras here, turn around. I want you to focus on my children. Also, to work for our children and our grandchildren and make sure that you don't have to go through what we went through, because faggots and dykes and pussies at mental institutions and penal institutions and behavior modification. That is what they did to us, and we are not going to allow them to do it to you. And you are not going to allow us to do it to you either. You are strong and you are political. When I found out I was a lesbian in 1959, the first thing I did was take to the streets in Canada at 16 years old and held up a sign saying, gay is good. And people thought I'd get happy and would give me money. And at that time in Canada, you could get 8 years in prison or in a mental institution for just coming out as gay. I was not afraid then. I am not afraid now. You are not afraid now. You are the strength and backbone of this movement. The second Yes on 8-1, Diane and I had prepared a lawsuit, and we were in our attorney's office the very next morning, and we filed to overturn Prop 8 because we don't have time to cry. This is a war. We won a battle, they cheated and lied and won a second battle, but we're going to win the war, because Mahatma Gandhi said, love always wins. When they went up to be heard at the Supreme Court, that's my limousine coming. When we went up to be heard at the Supreme Court, I walked into the Supreme Court, and I want you all to get one of these, with leaflets, knowing that when I walked out, I was going to call for the entire country to protest. I didn't wait for the Supreme Court hearing. I knew that by the very fact they would hear this, that I knew by the very fact that it did not stop the Yes on 8 people in the summer. That feels great, honey. They did not stop the Yes on 8 people in the summer. I knew that we were going to have a problem with the California Supreme Court. And we do. And so I walked out, and I handed out a leaflet saying, on the day of decision, we're all going to get out on that very day, and we're going to have protests all across the United States. And we are. Every city in North Carolina have signed up for today's decision. And I believe that here in Los Angeles right now, they've got one planned in West Hollywood. And I want you to go online for Day of Decision. It'll tell you what the plans are in Los Angeles. It'll also talk about the Saturday where we're going to go to Fresno and meet in the middle. So go to Day of Decision and be organized and be ready. And be ready. Be ready. How dare the California Supreme Court? I sat in the court with Diane, and you know what one of the judges said tonight? Well, marriage must be between a man and a woman is only 14 little words. Yeah? Well, Jews must wear stars on their clothing to be identified in Nazi Germany. That was 14 little words. Well, all blacks must get to the back of the bus. That was 14 little words. Well, guess what? Here's 14 little words. We're mad and tell them we're not going to take it anymore. So I was ready before going to the Supreme Court, and I walked out of there, and everybody was so angry, and I said, okay, don't agonize, we're going to organize, and we handed out these leaflets, and I hope you have one. That's what we're going to do, and it'll probably come down on a Monday or on a Thursday, the decision. If it comes down on a Thursday, you know what we should do on Friday? How many of you are still in school, high school or college? Hands up. We should get every campus and every high school in California to sit in on Friday. Go ahead. Contact. Thursday night we're going to be in the street. Friday we're going to sit in on the schools, and I expect all of you to get it all over California. You're all on YouTube and Twitter and everything. I know you can get this out in about 30 seconds to every other campus. So we will start the schools on Friday and sit in. Saturday we're going to go to Fresno, and we're going to build this. Let me tell you something. After the Supreme Court, the federal Supreme Court ruled for Brown versus Board of Education in the 60s to integrate the schools. They didn't integrate right away, even with the Supreme Court. It took 15 years of being a civil rights movement on the street to make them integrate. And we're going to have to get used to the fact we cannot rely on the court system. We are going to have to be on the street and make them stop oppressing us. I believe in the Fontana School of Radicalism. A woman walks into a dentist's office, he goes to drill her teeth. She grabs him by the balls and says, now we aren't going to hurt each other, are we, doctor? You know, I've loved the candlelight vigil, but the Supreme Court just blew out the last candle at the vigil. Enough. Enough. We have to stand up to them and say, if you dare take us out of this Constitution, and it'll be the first time in American history that any group has been taken out of a Constitution, then we are coming. We will never get off the street. And it's not just about marriage equality. Marriage equality is the Trojan horse by which all of our rights rise. Every right. We should have the right to serve, the right to work, the right to have children, every other right. What kind of equality does the California Supreme Court not understand? Now, don't let the Catholic and the Mormon Church pretend that they're our victims. They organized against us. They have called us for years and years freaks. They have thrown us out of the church and made our families be ashamed because we were gay kids. So don't all of a sudden they turn around and say we're hurting them, and don't let them think that the businesses we boycotted are our victims. In 30 states in the United States, LGBTQ community cannot work. In 30 states, there's no gay. The minute you're gay, you can be fired. So I'm not going to feel sorry for El Coyote or any other business that donates money against us. This is the tipping point in history. By the way, 2 years before Stonewall, right here in Los Angeles, at the Black Cat, they came out and they fought back, and the police were called in, and there was a huge demonstration 2 years before Stonewall, right here in Los Angeles. California goes to nation, and we care about it's not about marriage. It's not about marriage. In every state, they want to not only eliminate marriage for same-gender couples, but they also want to eliminate any recognition of our relationship. It's about homophobia. It's about hatred. It's about discrimination. It's about heterosexism and what they're doing to us. And nobody is going to give you anything unless you take it. So you're at a tipping point in history. Don't you always wish, oh gosh, I'd been there for Stonewall. I wish I'd been there for the first march, for the second or the third or the fourth march. You are right now here at a historic time. This will be the change in the United States. We don't just want marriage rights in California. We want to go to Washington and say, okay, you promised us everything. And so far, the Democratic Party for the last 35 years has given us nothing, not one civil right on a federal level. So we have got to demand it all. We have got to demand it all over the country, in California. Are you ready to get and keep on the streets? Are you ready? Yeah!